Hi, everybody. John Dunks here with Dakota Grappler. Having a great time tonight talking wrestling with 4 people and see how this goes. There'll be a little bit of delay, a little bit. We got Beau Vogeli on the bottom. He down in Rapid City, and he's doing it off a phone, so we'll see how that works. He get a little bit of delay earlier, but so we'll be patient there. Make sure we hear the great stuff he has to say. Then we got Tom Schoenhard. He's also out of Rapid. He's up in the upper corner for me. Love visiting with him all the time. He's got a young man still wrestling, and he has some great insight down for more South Dakota stuff. Then I got Bill, my college guru out of Carrington and everything else. And then there's me, John Guns at Dakota Grappler. Basically want to get people who do anything with wrestling recognition, so that's kind of been my job. And tonight we're going to talk wrestling. What you can expect us to talk a little bit about the Rapid City tournament coming up this weekend. We're also going to talk about a little bit of girls wrestling tonight. We're also I'm going to introduce you guys to the newest rankings I just got out for Class B. And then we're just going to talk anything wrestling. If you guys have questions, I know I see 5 people on. A lot of times it's from Facebook, and they don't register necessarily on YouTube, but you guys can still ask questions. And I have a thing here where I can pop questions up across the screen, and everybody should be able to see those. And then also, if you have an opportunity, go over to YouTube, subscribe, click the bell, and come on over and watch all the videos that we try to do. I'm going on 2 times a week. You can expect us Wednesday nights and Sunday nights to talk wrestling. And it's been a great season. We're going for almost a month now, at least practice-wise. And I just nominated last weekend. I do have a newsletter, which is actually going to come out tonight too, which will have both the North Dakota and South Dakota rankings. And then I did an article that you guys can experience there. So maybe I'll click it on the bottom here and you guys can catch the Dakota Grappler newsletter. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to have our guest tonight and basically do a quick introduction of themselves, tell a little bit about themselves, and then we'll get from there. So first we'll start off with Beau, my main guy tonight down there, my main guest. And we got a little bit of click. I'm not sure where that's coming from. But.
Hi, Beau Vogeli. I'm one of the assistant wrestling coaches at Rapid City Central for the first time. I moved down here to take a dean of students job and excited to talk wrestling today.
Okay. Tell us, you still live in Lead? Is that correct? And then
Yep, I still did live up in Lead, up on the hill. My wife is a special education teacher up there, so I commute most days. Although a couple nights a week, I stay at Jim Thompson's house, middle school wrestling coach for years in Rapid City, and lots of reffing. And usually each night I show up late and we talk wrestling before going to bed.
And then you are now a dean of students, is that correct?
Yep, dean of students. We have about 2,000 kids at Rapid City Central High School, and I work with mostly freshmen and then assist administration as needed.
Okay. Make sure you get nice and close so we can hear you. And then Tom, introduce yourself again. Tom Schoenhard.
Tom Schoenhard. I live out in Rapid City. I'm a Chamberlain kid. Graduated from here in high school and just involved in our Rapid City. And one of my boys is wrestling high school wrestling, and I've got a younger son that's wrestling middle school. So just traveled up to Mandan this weekend, got a chance to see you, and had a good weekend.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And he's also the man behind the scenes. If you see somebody running around like they've got to go get something at the wrestling tournament this weekend in Rapid City, that's usually him. Hey, then down on the bottom, we got Bill. I want you to introduce yourself too, Bill.
I'm Bill Holton. I like John said, I live here in near Carrington, North Dakota. Had a son that wrestled in Carrington, now wrestles at Northern State. So I spent a lot of time following college wrestling as well as a lot of Class B around the state and Class A when I can. But that's kind of what we're up to these days.
Oh yeah, Bill's my college guru, definitely. He's actually inspired me to get back into following more college wrestling. I'm not sure what that clicking sound is. Maybe we can try it. Somebody out there, if they hear the same thing I do. Do you guys all hear the clicking sound, guys?
I hear it. Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from. I don't.
Okay. It's like somebody's got a water bottle. So be patient, guys, out there.
It's not Beau.
It's not Cody this time. Okay. So if nothing else, I don't know if it's somebody's, I think it's probably the volume. When I speak or something, it's coming out on somebody's mic kind of different. I'm not sure what that is. Well, I apologize, guys that are watching a little bit. Maybe we can set it up a little closer or something. There we go. Oh, still here a little bit. We'll talk wrestling. We'll try to fight over it for a little bit if we have to. And Cody's trying to do his best job with his and go from there. It might be somebody that we might have to get headphones in the future, but deal with us. Let's talk first of all. Let's get right into that Rapid City tournament. We have some duels Thursday night, tomorrow night, probably around Dakota. But I know Rapid City has got their premier event besides when they hold state. Tell us about the tournament, Tom, first, and then I'll have Beau also talk about the wrestling tournament around Rapid.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a great tournament. It sounds like there's close to 40 teams this year. Kelly Walsh must be decent this year from Casper because they're coming over. I had read somewhere they had 8 returning place winners and maybe 4 champs. So I'm not sure who in their lineup's coming over, but they'll add to the mix. Obviously, Brandon Valley this year is coming over. They're legit this year. I think they were a top 5-6 team last year. And I saw today that Windsor broke the top 50 in the country for team. And so they're coming. So Suriano will be here again. He doesn't have the chance to wrestle Rip again, but
Yep.
You know, he'll and that was a good match last year. That was one of the premier matches. But they're pretty salty. So they'll be here. And of course, you know, Pierre, who had a nice showing at Mandan, they got a good lineup. And then, you know, everybody we haven't seen, Central was out in City, Montana. They got a great team this year. It really is. Everybody always says if you can place it, this not to place it state. That's how tough it is. So it'll be interesting to.
Yep, there's definitely no shame on placing, let's say, a 5th or anything like that, because you got multiple. Okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Hoping we don't have to start this up again, guys. But Beau, give us. There's Beau. Beau's probably going to try to dial out and dial back in. Well, my impressions, I'll just talk a little bit about Rapid City as we go to the 3-headed giant until we get Beau back on. But I've always been really interested at just having different guys. I know we talked about this, Tommy, you and I, about just seeing new competition, going in and having to have a clear mind as a wrestler and to just go out and wrestle. The experience is beyond none, and it basically puts you on a path to where you need to be for the season. So a little bit more, Tom, you said 40 teams?
Close to 40. And the one team I didn't mention, obviously, that wrestled great this weekend was Bismarck, you know, and obviously Century's got some good kids, but they'll be down. The scary part is you get the Wyoming kids that can't wrestle high school in 7th and 8th grade, and you might have a 9th grader that doesn't have any accolades, so to speak, that comes out here. And I remember a few years ago, there was a kid that got drawn in that won it, and he got like the 4 seed right out of the gates, and he ended up, it was an Osborne kid from Sheridan. So you just don't know what you don't know. And I think, you know, back to what you said, you know, you're not going to see these kids but once a year, if that. And, you know, it can be, there's some kids that are dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. No, I've gone in, and it's funny because you'll see a guy from like I know like Gillette or some one of those places, and they'll have like a 0-4 record or 0-0 record, and they're salty opening round. Right. There's Beau again. He's trying a different location. But still experimental with the phone. He's the first one trying the phone, so appreciate it, Beau, giving it a shot. Okay, so
yeah, is it sounding better now?
Well, it's getting there. It's definitely a little bit better. Yeah. Okay, you tell me, Beau, your impressions of the Rapid City tournament.
Well, I cut out for a bit, but I heard the point made that sometimes really good kids have a hard time placing there over a state tournament, and I experienced that twice in lead last year. We had a 32-pounder, Carson Pinsky, who was a state finalist. But in the Rapid City invite, had to beat a tough kid from Pierre in the first round wrestlebacks and wrestled Malone from Stevens in the second round wrestlebacks and lost. He went 1-2. And then we had the number 1 seeded kid at heavyweight, who also was a really tough kid. He finished the year 5th. He didn't make it into the placing rounds either. So yeah, I've been on that end of it. The talent is really deep, and I expect it from about 120 to 160 to be that deep again.
You sound so much better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Bill, now you've been at a lot of big tournaments too over the years. What do you think is the best thing for wrestlers coming into a tournament like that, or what should they expect?
Well, I think just the chance for these kids to go in, like you said, to wrestle some different competition. Over the years, we started going to the Clash, or we're a team that didn't go to the Rotary for decades and started going back to the Rotary, and I really saw some great growth out of those kids. And I'll even say that when these guys, a lot of these kids are younger and they went to preseason nationals, or and it just makes things, when you talk about going to the state tournament later, there's just no such thing as matches don't get too big. When you're going out there and you've just went out at different matches and concentrated on just scoring points and winning positions one at a time. Then when they're in the wrestlebacks at the state tournament, that blood round, or they're in the semifinals or wherever it is, against guys that they've probably wrestled 2, 3, 4 times, no situation becomes too big. So I think these tournaments like the Rapid City, the Mandan, when the guys from out of state come, also the same thing, the Rumble, or I know Bismarck has gone to the Minnesota Christmas tournament, or Century and West Fargo and Carrington have gone to the Clash. Those, you really saw things out of those kids when they down the road. They really were able to harken back to those moments that, just no moment ever becomes too big.
Great. Beau, as a coach, former coach and still coach, how do you approach some of your wrestlers who have never seen big competition?
I think the good ones, you still try to get to see that before out of season. We're pretty fortunate out here in Rapid City to have the Denver Monster Mash and Rocky Mountain National Series not very far from us. So I know that Pearson took down a pretty good chunk of kids. When I was in lead, we tried to find a core group of kids to make that not too big. But I think for the B programs that really want to compete, like Custer's going to Rapid this year, and
yeah, they had a great team last year.
Yeah, they make Rapid feel like home. You tell the guys you're gonna wrestle in a state tournament here. So some guys in these West River programs, they've wrestled at that facility now 4 or 5 times, the Civic Center. So I think it's all a mindset. And the lesser caliber kids, maybe you tell them that you go with the underdog mentality the whole weekend. It's still early enough in the year. Just pull the trigger.
Yeah. I know that Rapid City allows something else too. If you go 0-2 or lose out, they've got a second chance bracket, so your wrestlers can get some more matches on that Saturday morning. I think that's always been a good thing. Look, can you talk about that, Tom? What's going on that Saturday morning right away?
Normally that Saturday morning, if you go 0-2 or 1-2, they put you in either it's been the last couple of years a 4-man bracket, so you get 2 more in the morning. And there are some schools that kind of request that they wouldn't come if you didn't get 4 matches. So, they could at least get 2 or 3 Friday, and then they could get 2 on Saturday. So it's important to get those kids matches too, and make weigh-ins the second day, like Billy was saying, with the state tournament. I mean, you just kind of get in the groove of what you have to do and, where you do it. Beau mentioned it, the state tournaments are held there every 3 years. So it's not new.
Okay. Yeah, I love the big tournaments. To me, I get the semis and the finals become so big, and their names you always remember. I remember a couple big matches. Last year, Ripplinger, great match, but he ended up wrestling 2 years ago another North Dakota boy. You got a guy from Hettinger. You got 2 friends who are both wrestling, down D1, one in Wisconsin, the other one in Nebraska. In Fargo. and both of them, were top-notch kids. They'd faced each other. You take Berwick and Ripplinger. That's another great match. And there's so many more, but it could.
I remember Claprod and Blease.
Oh, yeah.
Back a few years. Yeah, that was a heck of a match.
And so I really look forward to those finals. I can go way back to Tyler Steinwan, and he faced a kid out of Huron, and I should know his name. I've got him actually. One of my pictures in the background of my book is this kid from Huron going back to Tyler Steinwan, and this kid hadn't lost ever, basically, and it was one of the best finals. Darren Holbein wrestling in the finals down there against tough kids. It's crazy, the great competition. Okay, Beau, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about, you saw some girls wrestling that last weekend down, was it Hot Springs, you said?
Yeah, this last weekend down at Custer.
Custer.
We're trying to get more girls opportunities in the state, and Chad Ronish and Jared Webster and Ray Ringstmeyer have really done a good job in the smaller schools and Class B, trying to get them opportunities. And down in Custer, I believe I counted 13 girls competed, and we had enough to put them in individual brackets. We had 3 girls at 113 do a round robin. We had 3 girls at 26 do a round robin, 3 at 32, and then kind of a 60 to 82 range area. And we had 2 nationally ranked girls in those brackets, Taylor Firebach from Spearfish and Alicia Van Scoy from Stevens. And they did that match featured in the finals on the second day of the tournament. And it was an overtime match. It was awesome. So it was nice to get them under the light and getting them in girl brackets to help grow the sport. So hats off to all those people involved down in Custer. That
is awesome. In fact, I just looked at the girl rankings, and North Dakota has a couple national ranks. We've got a Morgan Sandberg who's wrestling 106. In fact, she was ranked in the first preseason poll. Just, I think, on the outside of the first poll of the regular season. And then we had Smith girl out of Minot, who was nationally ranked also. She's like top 12 or something like that. So pretty cool. Definitely. Okay, so what's your impression of the first weekend of the wrestling tournament? I got to talk a little bit to Tom about it, but Beau, what did it look like you were down in Custer?
Yeah, I was down in Custer. We sent our JV down there. The brackets were a little bit more full than the last couple of years, so I think that's good for the smaller programs. But at each weight class, there was still some pretty high caliber kids. Some guys I noted as the Graf kid at Custer should do some damage at 106 this year. And it looks like 106 is going to be pretty deep. We got Tom's boy, Jack, in the Rapid City invite as well. And I believe the Brandon Valley kid in the A rankings comes out 1. So I think he'll fit in with those guys pretty well. Another weight class that really stuck out to me was 132. Max Johnson from Lead ended up pinning his way through the tournament. He's a 3-time state qualifier. Maybe he'll get on the stand this year. Lead wrestles in Rapid as well. At 152, Irel Griffin from Custer wrestled really well. Again, Custer will be in Rapid, so I think Bs are going to be well represented at some of these weight classes. And then up to 95, one match that I really liked was Sam Adams is back from Harding County. Harding County doesn't have a lot of kids on their wrestling team, but he was not able to wrestle last year due to a football injury. And I think he's going to represent West River in the big weights very, very well. And then I got to go to heavyweight, where Robbie Lester from Lead was a state placer last year, and he pinned his way through the tournament, and he'll be wrestling in Rapid well. So it'll be interesting to see how those guys who stuck out down in Custer do this weekend at that high level.
Maybe he wants to be on the other side of Big Nash.
Yeah, we're actually hosting Nash tomorrow night. We're dueling Chamberlain tomorrow night, and before the invites, so they're going to be at Stevens tomorrow night. So,
well, you guys live feeding it somewhere?
I don't know if our AD will set that up. I don't know how to set it up, but normally John Aldridge, who you probably know or have heard his name, he and I normally have commentated all of our duels. So if it'll be on, it'll be on GoRaidersLive.com probably about 7 Mountain, I'm guessing ish. So you can tune in if you're home, but I'm hoping we do it, but I'm not IT enough to be able to set that up.
Okay. Yeah. Tomorrow night I head up to Minot. It's a big, actually, West, WDA match between Minot and Century. And so it's basically the 2 and 3 seeds, basically in North Dakota for Class A that are going against one another. It's a crucial duel for positioning as the season goes. And I tell you what, when I started, there's going to be some movement, and that'll be an exciting duel tomorrow night in Minot. Yep. Carrington go tomorrow?
Carrington does not go tomorrow. They have the Carrington duels on Friday night. That'll involve Carrington, Napoleon, Minot, Pembroke County North, and I believe there's another team, and I cannot think of who it is off the top. Maybe Velva. I don't remember who the other one is. And then Carrington tournament on Saturday, which will bring Lisbon to town, as well as Napoleon. So, going to really be a good tournament. I think that's. I'm not 100% sure, but I kind of think this might be the first year Lisbon's been back at this for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be possibly they were there last year. I just don't remember for sure, but that'll be a good tournament. Those are teams that all came. Napoleon Early Bird was last week, and Napoleon was second in that behind South Border. The Velva tournament was last weekend. Carrington was third with 4 champs. Velva won that tournament, looked pretty good. I followed it. I was in Florida, but I was following the tournaments as I could. And the Lisbon was at the Dan Unruh down in Wahpeton and won that. So, and that's a good tournament. That's a real quality tournament with a lot of, some Eastern Class A teams as well as some really good teams out of Western Minnesota. So,
yeah, and I just got done with the rankings for Class B, and Lisbon is the number 1 ranked team, and they've got, I think they have somebody ranked in probably 11 of the 14 weight classes or something like that. Yeah, they're loaded. I mean,
yeah, they're pretty tough,
and they'll be really tough. I had South Border actually as the number 2 with returning points and placing when they moved all the rankings around. New Salem was 3rd, Velva 4th, and Carrington 5th. So you actually have 3 of the top 5 teams at your tournament this weekend.
Actually, New Salem will be there.
Oh, New Salem.
That is actually the 5th team on the duels on Friday night. I remember that as just before you said it, but yeah, so New Salem will be there dueling, and Minot will be there dueling.
Okay.
So that's all. Oh, and Minot will be there on Saturday too.
Well, Minot is the number 2 Class B or Class A right now. So you add that and take away South Border, you just basically got top 5 teams. That's pretty good.
That's a really good tournament. And Bismarck JV, Mandan JV, both will bring some really good kids. Bismarck Legacy will be there on Saturday. It's a good tournament. It'll be fun.
Well,
and follow that up on Sunday with the Pit Crew Early Bird Little Kids tournament, youth tournament on Sunday. So there's 3 full days of wrestling in Carrington on this weekend.
Well, that is great. I tell you what, you gotta get it all done. I know last week I talked to some of the coaches in Jamestown, and they held a junior high meet Friday, and they were still recovering come Saturday morning from all that and trying to get it all done. And so it's quite the mission. You got to have a lot of good people to help.
One thing that South Dakota added this year, and Beau can comment on it too, but they allowed up to 3 combination weigh-ins. So if you did a duel the night before a tournament at that facility, it didn't count against your 15 weigh-ins. It counted as a combination weigh-in. So I think that was one opportunity when they brought the state duels back to encourage teams to do that, to not have to take some of those tournaments off their schedule or to make it work the night before they're there. And I'm hoping that catches on because, it doesn't necessarily add that many matches because you're not doing a quad or a try. But for the most part, you might get 3 or 4 more, but you get a chance to duel as a team.
Right. So that's the biggest aspect this year is that team in South Dakota really push that, I guess. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, Beau, what do you think of the upcoming duels? We've talked about it a little bit with Tom before.
Are you talking about the state or adding duels?
Qualifying for state and having dual teams. Yeah, definitely.
I would first say it's about time. Wrestling in North Dakota, I can't imagine it being any other way. So I know here at Central, we're really excited that now we're bringing the state duels back. I know there's some people who are a little hesitant to matches and those types of things, but the sport needs this. the small schools need to bring the team aspect back. I love that they're adding, especially in the Class B division for mostly Region 4, there was a lot of teams that weren't getting many duels. And if it was getting snowed out, it was getting canceled and not rescheduled. So this is just going to help hold teams attainable to keeping the dual schedule, showing up, wrestling, and hopefully making all the programs get back to having home meets, filling some weight classes, which I think is just ultimately good for the sport. And it's going to be a blast.
Definitely. Well, I look forward to it because I tell you what, it's going to be a full day that Friday at the South Dakota Class B, especially, or Class A and Class B. You know how Class B people, they pack the house, and it's going to be crazy. We talked to Canton's head coach last week, and that sea of blue that they bring, it's just going to be even bigger. And talked about their schedule. They always got that Friday off of school. It was their spring break. They always took it. Well, the school obliged them and got them both Thursday and Friday off this year for their schedule.
Benny probably did that on his own.
I like it.
Yep, that is a wrestling school, definitely. Yep, they get, or they can get passes if it says wrestling on it. The coach has to sign it. No. So you're now an administrator down in Rapid. You can start pulling that. I'm thinking. Right, Beau?
I don't.
You're a few years away from that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, Beau, do you follow college wrestling still? You got your Northern ties, so.
Yeah, not as much as I wish I did. I try to keep up with the D2 NAIAs as much as possible. That's kind of where we have some more local kids, and with the connections I still have. I do a lot of it through social media. I follow the NSU wrestling, Augie wrestling, Dickinson. One of the kids I coached in lead is wrestling in junior college in Wyoming. So I'm not always the most up to date, but try to follow it as much as I can. Maybe try to give a little insight to kids who might want to try college wrestling. What I feel about some different programs and try to advise. And I really like what's going on at NSU right now. I'm sure you guys have talked about those things. They got some really fun kids to follow. So, yeah, pretty excited.
Yes, definitely. No, Bill's lucky. He's right in the midst of all that. So, Bill, what's Northern up to? Give us a little college update.
Well, last week I wasn't on the weekend, but I don't know how much you talked about last week. They did duel Moorhead State, or Minnesota State University Moorhead, at home on Thursday night, and Northern really looked good. It was I watched that duel from Florida, and the team as a whole looked really solid. I was really happy. They looked strong. I think they had first takedown in every match that there was a takedown. Kind of probably the exciting one was at heavyweight. Jordan Magnuson, Valley City grad, was ranked maybe 11th in the country, and Northern's Caleb Lefferding came out with a win in that match. So that was a pretty nice upset. Besides that, everybody just looked good. They looked solid. They looked crisp. They looked in shape. They wrestled their tails off. Rocky really had them looking good. So that was fun. So that brings us to this week. They duel the number one team in the country on Friday night. So they got St. Cloud at home. You talked about Lisbon being ranked in 11 out of 14 weight classes. I believe that St. Cloud is ranked in 10 out of 10, and a lot of them are ones and twos. They're deep and they're tough, and it'll be interesting. I think from 149 to 150 or to 174, that's 4 weight classes. I think they're first in 2 weight classes and second in 2. So it's a group of hammers, but there's going to be some really good matches. I think at 133 we're going to have a really good match. I think at 157 we'll have a good match with James Burks and Jake Bartkowski from Maryland. At 149, Caden Moore will have James Plesky. Plesky's ranked number 1 in the country. Caden wrestled a really good match with them last year. At 165, Billy has Devin Fitzpatrick. They were, I think, 7-5 at the regional. We were on the wrong end of that deal, but it's a winnable match. I mean, it was just a good match, you know, and 184 is going to be a really good match. Marcus Placide looked really good. He's a junior college transfer, and he's looked solid. So I think 197 will be really competitive. So I mean, there's some really winnable matches there that the guys are going to have to come out and go really hard, really tough. And then the week after that, they go to Las Vegas for 3 duels and that weekend right before Christmas. So that's kind of what they have going on. Some of the other guys, Mary and Moorhead are going to the Midwest Classic in Indianapolis this weekend. That's the toughest tournament of the year, probably including the state. All of the top teams are there with the exception of St. Cloud. I mean, they haven't gone. Northern's generally gone to that tournament. They did not go this year. I think just the schedule. Well, they decided to go to Las Vegas. They get 3 duels. Everybody gets 3 matches, and it's kind of a little bit of a break before you get into that grind of the rest of the season. And so yeah, Mary and Moorhead are both going to the Midwest Classic, and I think Minot's off, and they are also going out to Las Vegas for the what they call the Desert Duels. So
yeah, I know that NDSU is putting on that they're going on the Vegas trip, and they're looking forward to that too. Many other guys.
Yeah. Well, NDSU was at Vegas last weekend. And the Cliff Keen. Yeah, that was that's just a really tough tournament. Really good tournament. 165. Fogarty took 5th. Had a pretty solid showing. Besides that, I don't think there was another placement. Cam Secor did not wrestle, so it was a really good bracket. I would like to have seen him in it. They're going to the Southern Scuffle in early January. That's another. They're going to back up, one really hard tournament with another really good tournament. So I should mention 2 other matches that happened last week. 2 duels in North Dakota, Upper Iowa, which is perennially been one of the top teams in the NSIC. Went to Minot. They had a really, really close duel. Upper Iowa did win 19-18. That was on Friday night, and then they went to Mary on Saturday. 2 really good duels. A lot of back and forth matches. I was able to watch those, so they were fun.
You guys get why I call him my college guru? Yeah, he's awesome. No, I did hear one thing, and this isn't wrestling related, but St. Cloud is actually going to be dropping their football team. I don't know if you guys saw that. I saw that St. Cloud was going to actually move some sports stuff, and I was hoping they wouldn't do anything with wrestling. You remember when Nebraska,
Omaha, yep.
Yep, Omaha dropped their wrestling team after being so tough, and I was going, because this was kind of coming down the line. I just kind of heard rumors because we have a Century boy that I got to know pretty well, swam with my son, and he's at St. Cloud. And when I heard this coming down the line, I was thinking maybe they're going to be dropping swimming or whatever. And the big word came down, and it's a money game. I know it is, but they're adding men's soccer and dropping football, which is the craziest thing in my mind because I don't understand soccer whatsoever. But no, I'm kind of glad. I'm really glad they didn't do anything with wrestling there.
Yeah, that was a little frightening to see. I know, and it wasn't just St. Cloud. It was also Crookston, University of Minnesota Crookston, another NSIC team that dropped their football programs. But it's a combination of Title IX and money. Their enrollment was down. Football's an expensive sport in Division II. It doesn't, it's not like the big D1 programs where it pays all the bills. And then of course the rosters are so huge. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that maybe St. Cloud has a handful of really good players who want to come to Aberdeen at the new facilities and brand new head coach. So,
yep. I was always saying that going to Crookston was a guaranteed win for Mary. At least they'd get one football win. Yeah. So, tell us a little bit more about the upcoming schedule for Rapid City besides your tournament this weekend. I'm trying to think how that goes for Stevens.
For Stevens, we'll have the tournament this weekend and the duel. And then next weekend we go to Madison, which is kind of our opportunity to see some of those East River teams. Madison, Sturgis is usually there as well. But Harrisburg will be there. There might be a couple B teams there, but it's normally got 20 or 25 teams in there. They do a nice job putting that together, and we got into that here a few years ago just because we didn't have an opportunity. West Central will be there. West Central's always got good kids. So it's tougher to see some of the East River teams because they don't all come to the invite. So that's a nice opportunity for that. And then we get a little break for Christmas. And this year we added a tournament in Bozeman, which Montana only has 13 weight classes. So we're going to have to figure out if
who's
what we do there for a couple of them. But, we were going to have 19 days off, and that just is too long for the kids. So our coach got us in the Montana tournament, and then we'll be at the Rotary. So, I mean, it doesn't stop. And this year, even with East-West duels in Pierre, that used to be 3 East River teams and 3 West River teams. And I think they added Spearfish in this year, and they also added Roosevelt and Harrisburg because Watertown pulled out. So it'll be Brandon, Pierre, Roosevelt, Harrisburg, Stevens, Central, Sturgis, and Spearfish. So that'll be a good day of wrestling. So that'll be exciting.
And then just to backtrack a little bit, any impressions from the weekend? Go through a couple of wrestlers from your teams in Mandan. Your son had an awesome tournament. Your son took first at 106. We talked, and he wanted to win a tournament to start off. It was so tough to win tournaments. So he got that one. Now hopefully he wins a bunch more.
Yeah.
Some more of the Stevens wrestlers that wrestled well this weekend.
I think we ended up with one of our 26-pounder ended up wrestling the St. Mary's kid, Barnhart, in the finals.
Barnhart,
he's electric. And Steiler wasn't there. He's dangerous too, obviously. But and then our 160-pounder, Cooper Voorhees, he's a Wyoming commit, and he ended up wrestling a Sturgis kid in the finals there, and he ended up winning. As a team, I think we only had 9 kids wrestle. We had some bus trouble, so they didn't get the chance to work out. And I think for 9 kids, I think we ended up in 4th place. So we got a lot of bonus points from some of our kids. It really, we love the tournament because you get 5 to 7 matches to start the year off. And we were talking earlier about some teams showing up to the invite. Wyoming starts a week late. North Dakota starts a week early from us. And those kids, don't get a chance. They come in 0-0. And one of the criteria down the road is, do you have a match and have you won it? What's your record? It could get to that for some of those kids. And some of the ESD teams that just duel, they may only have 1 match, where some of our kids might be 4-2, 6-1, or whatever. So, then we had one other kid in the finals at 170. He ended up losing his match to that Roldson kid from Bismarck who wrestled a great tournament.
Well, he got my MVP of the week, and I just went and interviewed him today. As a sophomore, he took 5th in state, kind of just out of the blue, heading place as a freshman, took 5th. And then at the Rumble, he actually broke his C6, or his C6, and he was done wrestling his junior year. He was wrestling a kid, and so he said to me in the interview that the hardest thing he had to do is not be able to wrestle state his junior year.
Right.
Getting his neck back and be able to have the brace and all the other stuff was not a big deal.
Well, the weird part was, Beau had mentioned monster match. Those 2 wrestled that monster match, and the Stevens kid had beat him down there in the finals down there. But I ended up befriending his dad in the stands. He sat by us up there on that side, and I talked to him for 20 minutes, and he told me what you just did. And it's exciting to hear. You don't ever want to see anybody get hurt. And unfortunately, up there this weekend, there were 4 or 5 kids that got carried off the mat that were hurt. So hopefully they're all doing good.
I know Pierre had one hurt his ankle pretty good. Kid from West Fargo.
Yeah.
And that sounded like that didn't look very good.
No, it didn't. But, at the end of the day, it's a great tournament. There's an opportunity. I still wish they would wrestle a 7th and 8th place match to give those kids an extra match. They pull that mat up. I don't know why they do it. They got the referees there. The kids are there. They deserve another match. So that's my only complaint.
Well, I tell you what, that's the suggestion. I'll talk to Tyler Steinwand. He's, the head wrestling coach now there. And little things like starting that back to that hour again. You guys got done by 7:30 Friday night.
Right.
You guys probably made it home for a little bit after supper. You guys got done so early.
Right.
What time do you roll back into Rapid?
Oh no, we didn't get home till and we left probably after 95 or right. We weren't home till about 9:30, somewhere in there. And the roads were decent, so it was okay. But we drive 5 hours, extra match. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll stick around. I agree. I would agree with that. Maybe he's watching tonight and he's already heard this.
Oh, well, I'm not complaining. I appreciate the tournament, but you know what? Some of those kids, that's why we come is for matches. So I think
now, Beau transitioning from head coach to still helping out the program as an assistant.
He's already heard this.
Whoops. There we go. Now I was thinking, Beau, going from a head coach, having all the responsibilities, is it nice to step back and just help with the program and just be involved? Or tell me what your impressions are right now with helping out with the wrestling program in Rapid. Whoops, not
Beau,
hearing
your
you.
mic's turned off.
And you probably hear us, but
there you go.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. It's been actually a great adjustment. The reason that this change happened was I was looking for an opportunity. I thought it was only going to be in a smaller school. Coming from Oaks, I've always known the pros of being in small schools and liked them. And I was looking for somewhere to get into administration, but still play a role in wrestling. I don't have kids of my own, so every kid I've coached has just been held a special place to me. In Rapid City, I had the Dean of Students position open, and Frosty Paris took a principal job. So it was just a perfect fit late in the summer in August, and I'm still just really excited to be a part of it, and that this school district gave me an opportunity to do that. As far as just the wrestling goes, I've done the USA stuff. I'm going to do some USA this spring again. I've coached AAU. I've helped with middle school. I've learned to set my pride aside and just be happy to be working with kids. So I really enjoy going with the JV on the weekends. I'm just really happy to be in this role.
Are you going to help out at the academy up there, the Black Hills?
I haven't set that up yet, but I'm really impressed by what they have going on over there.
Okay, well, Tom's the man to talk to.
Probably not me, but Voorhees, yeah.
Voorhees,
yeah.
It's kind of different. Bismarck and Century have different clubs. Have they separated out clubs in Rapid City, like for the different schools? Kind of like their feeder club.
You want to answer that one? I haven't quite been around long enough to answer all those questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the Rapid City Stevens program is called Westside because it's on the west side of town, and that's what it's always been called. And then the Central has their Cobbler kids, the Cobbler Wrestling Incorporated. They've got their club. St. Thomas More has a club. So there are different clubs, and each one's probably got 100 plus kids in it, ish. And then you've got Sturgis, who's probably got 150, 15, 20 miles away. Wall and Phillip. I mean, they're Hot Springs, Custer's, great kids. I was at a middle school tournament last night at Douglas, and we had close to over 500 kids there. So, Douglas has got 80 or 90 kids, and they're going to be growing here. They're going to get some funding I think, to make the base bigger. So Douglas is going to get, they're going to get bigger, and so there's a lot of kids that wrestle out here. And you can, at a youth level, you can kind of wrestle where you want, So, but I'm in charge, or on our board here. I've been on here for about 7 or 8 years now. But and we work together. We went and bought track wrestling clocks with the Central Club because we use them for middle school and state high school, and put that burden on the clubs and not the high schools. And we work together. Tomorrow morning I'll probably be setting up if Beau shows up. Who knows? But with the Central guys, we just do that. I mean, it's our job to make the tournament good and promote it. Make sure people feel welcome. We want it to be a tournament that's tough. I remember a few years ago when Randy just brought 4 wrestlers down from Edinger, but they were all good, and I got a chance to meet Kyle, and I got a chance to talk to him a few times. And, that's what we talked about even on the first show. You just meet guys. I met the Bismarck guys. I see those guys in Denver, Lardy, and so those guys. And, it's great. So we work together a lot. Our kids compete against each other. Sometimes they even transfer. But, it kind of is what it is. We got to support the sport. And, we're doing that now.
That's so true. I remember when you could talk about Carrington developing their club over the years and how you can see, this last 10 years, how it's accumulated to such great wrestling teams out of Carrington too. And you can give a lot of credit to a couple individuals in Carrington for doing that. A lot of those kids grew up and wrestled together as little kids. And then guess what? Next thing you know, they're all going to college and wrestling in college even. Tell us kind of the Carrington experience and getting you guys this club to actually, here's an interesting thing being a Class B town, never afraid to compete against the Matt Packs, the Gorillas, the Jamestown teams. When Carrington stepped up and went to the A division, that was a big step for them.
Yeah. I'm going to say one thing first that I wanted to mention before was that we talked about that Northern Duel. We had a Rapid City kid that had 125 pounds, Landon Fisher, that had a great match on Thursday night, major decision, and so that's good to see. There's a few of those Rapid City kids that are on that team, and so that's something that I wanted to say when you're talking about Rapid City. But when it comes back to that Pit Crew Wrestling Club, these guys when it was come to those elementary duels, those youth duels, every single time we'd wrestle. Matt Pack, Russell West Fargo, and those were the really tough West Fargo Matt Pack.
Yeah, the tech team. Yep,
the tech team kids and the Matt Pack kids, and it was always really just brought up just kind of what we talked about before, that it became that those moments just didn't become too big, and we weren't really worried about winning or losing those individual matches, and they'd walk off and every once in a while we'd have someone say, well, why don't we wrestle those Class A teams? And we said, because that's who's on the other side of the mat. You just go and try to win every position. And in time, it just didn't, it really became just what we did. And so the program always had a pretty good number of kids. The one thing that's really nice about this program here, this is kind of an interesting thing, is that, we have the Pit Crew has their own wrestling building. They're not beholden to a school or scheduling around anything else. They went out a number of years ago and raised the money and bought a building, got mats through the entire building. It quite literally rivals some college wrestling rooms. It's really a nice situation. Made it nice to be able to have camps last year. Last couple of years, we've had some really good clinicians come in for camps. So, guys that come from D1 programs and they always kind of just shake their heads and go, man, this is really a nice place for this, little town in central North Dakota. So,
I have to give a thumbs up to one wrestling club, which I told you would do the Gorillas now in Bismarck. They got Jordan Burroughs to come this last year, and
right.
that was a big step. And they really promote a club, and their philosophy is a little bit different. Where guess what they have, and not all the clubs are the same. There's ones that are go, and then there's the other ones that guess what we're gonna mold you to love this sport, and so there's always positives. Anybody's promoting the sport, so I said I would give Gorillas, because I talk a lot about Matt Pack, so I do apologize a little bit, because I got to give the Gorillas some kudos too. They do a great job up there with their kids.
Yep, they sure do. Yeah, so it's been fun to watch these clubs grow, and whether it's these youth tournaments around the state or state folk style, state freestyle, Greco. And then a lot of times we've had, you put them all on buses and send them to Nebraska for elementary duels, or send them to Iowa for preseason nationals. And you see those guys, with the exception of every once in a while we run into where we're wrestling each other. They pile up in the corner and they're cheering for, the fellow North Dakotans. And so it's really been a neat thing. And you have a lot of memories from those times over the years, and we've been lucky to have that. And the Pit Crew has been great for for our kids, and they're still going along today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, boy, I wanted to mention to you, I was hoping that you'd show up in golf. We needed a good fourth person this last year for the Northern Tournament. We ended up taking second and needed one more person. We actually golfed with 3 this year, and we got an extra shot. Corey, your ex-head coach, he's a pretty good golfer. Your dad is not a good golfer, but
he can putt.
But he's a gamer. And what's interesting, he'll have like a 30-foot putt and he'll sink it. And he hasn't golfed all year. It's like, it's the craziest thing seeing your dad golf, because his drive is about 150 yards, but then he'll have a good tip. You know, it's that team aspect, and he shows up, and your dad's always a bunch of fun. Yep. So we need you to come to the Northern Golf Thing.
I'm hoping to finally get to my first one. I was gonna make it this year if I wouldn't have. I took the new job that week, and
that was that week. Yep. Dad was the one who told me about it and said, "Keep it quiet." Yep. Let him tell everybody. Yeah.
Well, going back to what we were talking about too, I mean, you know, Beau had a ton of kids. That Lee Deadwood tournament grew and got crazy, and it was busy. The kind of the nice part of West River, and it's the same East River, but sometimes on the high school side, not so much, but Spearfish, Belfouche, Sturgis, you know, the Rapid City teams, there's a lot of kids, and a lot of Wyoming kids come over to wrestle. So most tournaments have 200, 300, 400, 500 kids at them. So kids get matches, and everybody does a really good job. And we go back every year. We do an end of the year kind of club and board coach, kind of a appreciation night, we call it. Every club has to bring a gift, and then we do a drawing, and then we have dinner and drinks, and we go up to Deadwood of all places because there's casinos up there.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what? It's such a fun time to talk to the guys, and we brought in different guys to speak and talk about wrestling. We brought in Chisholm Fink from Augustana last year. You know, we don't have a lot of money per se to bring, you know, anybody high caliber in. Not that they're not, but you know, it's kind of a fun, relaxing evening for the spouses and the dads to just get together and kind of, you know, talk about wrestling. And it's turned into kind of a nice ordeal. I think it's 6 or 8 years running, and those guys in Deadwood kind of started it up there, and it's fantastic.
You build that wrestling culture where behind the scenes you are all real good friends. You know, on the side of the mat, you might have to be enemies for a little while, but then when it's all said and done, your buddies shaking hands behind there and saying, "Why did you do that?" And then, you know, here's what's interesting. Guys can get away with that. I don't think women could. You know, be competitive on the side of the mat, but then you walk into the coach's room and you know, butt heads a little bit, but it's all good.
Sometimes it's a long 6 minutes or, you know, whatever.
Oh yeah. No, I've been in some of those rooms before and said, "Oh, you scouted us." I guarantee you did. You know, when I talked to a Pierce head coach, he was really impressed with Bismarck. I talked to him just the other day on Sunday night, and he noticed that they just work so well together. And they were for sure like the Van Camp. They had him scouted out, or just whatever it was. It was, you know, there's one of these things that, you know, I think Sean Lewis will come back and he'll be ready and prepared even more for his kids next time.
Well, you talk about youth programs too. They're an example in South Dakota of a youth program that's helped their high school, and you know, they do a lot of good things over there. So absolutely.
Yeah, I've been impressed since day one when he came in there, and it's always been a good, how can you say, there's been a tight knit of quality there, but just when you start adding numbers to quality, it's phenomenal, because it's like iron sharpening iron. It becomes tougher and tougher, and they've developed quite the program. Somebody had said they don't, you know, they reload or whatever it was. They kind of their comment they had made. You know, they after kids leave, they just put the next ones in. No, that's quite the run. No, there's not many teams. If you look down the list in South Dakota, have won 4 state in a row, 4 state championships, and they ran that. And almost, you know, last year they weren't predicted to be where they were at, and they got right in the mix with Stevens. So, no, quite the run.
Yeah, they do a good job, and They certainly added some quality to that Mandan tournament. They brought some good kids. So, and Central has a great team too, and they would have done the same. But, with Central going to Sydney, Pierre was no slouch coming in. I think they added some stuff right in the mix.
Mm-hmm. Well, Beau, you were part of the run when there was somebody that could do this in North Dakota. Remember who that was? They held up 6 in a row.
I believe that was Napoleon.
Yep. Region 1 for a while. They're pretty dominant. They still are. It's hard to break that. We got Lisbon running away with it. Carrington's the one team that can break that string every once in a while.
It's hard. It's a bunch of tough kids down there south of the interstate. We got beat up by Oaks while Beau was there for years, and we took second place. I couldn't tell you how many times. And then Napoleon, and then South Border, and we broke through for a couple of there in the middle. So
Oaks has won their share.
Yeah, they won 3 in a row, I believe.
Was that
duels and individuals, probably 3 in a row, right? No?
Yeah, I know my brother was on the consecutive streak. His freshman through senior year, he was on all 4 teams.
Yeah.
That's quite the run. Another great guy. I got to get Corey out here again. He's always a lot of fun. Definitely. Well, guys, I'm going to go down the list. We've already taken up a whole hour almost here. Tom, any last words for tonight?
Yeah, it's going to be a long weekend for me. I'll probably get 10,000 steps a day or more. But, and this year, again, my kid's wrestling, so it's a little bit more stressful than before when he was just tapping and cleaning up blood. But it'll be a fun chance to see a lot of guys from throughout the state, the North Dakota guys, the Wyoming guys, the Denver guys, the Windsor. It should be a pretty good time. So I'm excited for a fun weekend. I take a couple of vacation days here to work. I don't know what I'm doing, but that's all right. It should be great.
Well, awesome, Tom. I wish you the best of luck. Yep. Get all those mat tappers going. Yeah. Okay, Beau, what do you got to say? Anything last words for you?
Just that I'm really looking forward to this weekend. Really excited to watch the 106, 120, and 160 pound weight classes, especially. And then going throughout the year, I'm just really excited to see the impact that the state dual tournament is going to have on wrestling in South Dakota, coming from North Dakotas. I think it's going to be great, and people are going to realize that we've been missing out.
Definitely. And Bill.
Yeah. Well, I'm obviously looking forward to seeing the results of this Carrington tournament. I won't be able to be here because I'll be in Aberdeen on Friday night, and then Saturday, actually, just to shout out, Billy graduates with his bachelor's degree on Saturday, magna cum laude, I guess. So he'll start his master's program right away and keep wrestling. But so that's what we're doing for the weekend, and youth tournament in Carrington on Sunday. So we'll be around for that. And then just hopefully everything goes great. We got some great wrestling to follow here this weekend in both states, college and high school, and then the youth kids are gonna get started, and then we'll have the Rumble.
Well, I'll be probably 10 hours away from Rapid City. I'll be mine out tomorrow night, and a good chance I'll be in Grand Forks. There's a big dual tournament up there, the Sartoma tournament, and there's a ton of dual teams. That's a dual tournament. So I'm looking forward to see that. If I don't make it, I'll be at some wrestling tournament for sure, because it all depends if my boy gets to wrestle on Saturday with the varsity team. He's an extra kind of guy. Right now he's a backup, and so we got to see if he becomes one of the backups. If not, he'll wrestle Friday, and then Saturday I would be free to roam and probably hit some other wrestling tournaments. If I would have been Rapid, it'd probably be crazy, but you never know. I've done crazier things.
Sure. I have to tell my daughter to go to the duel. I think they're giving another TV away. She goes to Northern, Billy. So, I told her to get in there and try to win it. So I have to buy her a TV.
Yeah, they've been really been a pretty good atmosphere. Pretty good crowd, and all. This will be the first one I've been able to bid at this year. I haven't missed many over the years, but I had to do a little traveling, so I'll be mat side on Friday night.
Well, the camera angle for sure was better than Concordia. That was awful up there.
Awful.
I could barely see. I didn't even, and they had the same singlet on. We got to go home and away,
Yeah.
at some of those duels, so you know who the heck's wrestling.
Yeah, it was kind of nice this last week. I don't know if you saw it, if anybody watched it on Friday or last Thursday night, that duel, but usually Rich Vogeli does the commentary, and he had a duel that night. Had a Lisbon Oaks duel. That's kind of a big one down there. So they actually had Paxton Muse, Jamestown grad, former Northern wrestler, and Josh Moore doing it. And those guys did a really good job. I was impressed. Of course, they know wrestling and they know all the kids. So
I talked to Paxton's dad at Jamestown tournament this last weekend, and he told me about that. And he said it was phenomenal. And he thought they did a great job.
They did, yeah.
And he was impressed. And I said, well, guess what? I'll hire him. Come over and do stuff.
That's right.
Yep. Well, thanks again, guys. Always awesome. Anytime you guys want to come in and visit wrestling, I'm trying to do it 2 times a week. Sundays and Wednesdays. Always just got to thank you guys. Beau, anytime. I'm glad you're having great success in your new job. Keep up the good work. And Bill, we'll see you out there selling implement stuff anytime. I know you do get to travel. And Tom, anytime too. We'll visit many, many times. So guys, again, go out and promote your sport. Go out and watch some wrestling. That's I know what I'm here for. So take care. One more thing. If you want, I do have the Class B, North Dakota Class B rankings up on the Dakota Grappler. And I also will have the newsletter probably out later tonight because I just got to write up one last thing, the rest of the week information. I did write an article. It took me about 5 hours to write an article I did research on. So those that do read out there, take a look at it. It has to do a lot about what you guys are working with your kids and wrestling and coaching. It's basically coaching philosophy article about how you treat yourself or how you see yourself as a wrestling coach. So that's about it. I'm going to call it a quits. We made it over an hour. Thanks again, guys. Come back, Dakota Grappler Live. We're out. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.